Handling accelerated stability failure and addressing stability failures and stability issues in the product development or in the pharmaceutical product development. This is the topic for the present video. I welcome all the viewers and professionals to this video. The video is related to failure in the accelerated stability study, how we can solve the problems, and how we can go ahead with the product development. Stability studies are performed to demonstrate that the product will retain its quality and its standards throughout the shelf life. Stability studies and stability testing ensures a product maintains its quality, efficacy, and safety over the time. That means the quality is same at the time of manufacturing and it is retained till the expiry period. Different type of stability conditions are there like accelerated, intermediate and long term. So accelerated means it is a stress testing in which the temperature and humidity are more compared to the actual storage temperature and humidity. Then accelerated stability means it simulates higher stress conditions to predict the shelf life. Long-term stability testing and condition provides actual data under normal storage conditions. Intermediate stability testing test under conditions between accelerated and the long term. The example is accelerated stability testing is performed at 40 degrees Celsius and 75% RH. Long-term stability testing is performed at 25 degrees Celsius temperature and 60% RH. Intermediate stability testing performed at 30 degrees Celsius with 65% relative humidity or sometimes it is 75% relative humidity. Role of accelerated stability testing. So we have to understand what is the role or purpose of the accelerated stability testing. The purpose is to predict the product shelf life by speeding the degradation process using extreme conditions of temperature and humidity. The accelerated stability testing is performed mainly to predict the stability at the earlier phase or earlier than the long-term condition. So you can get some insights into the product stability. Common accelerated condition is 40 degrees Celsius and 75% relative humidity. It is accepted for the accelerated condition for many of the regulatory agencies and also it is common in all the guidelines. Sometimes 50 degrees Celsius and 75% RH is considered as a high stress, but it is not a recommended storage for accelerated conditions. You can use this condition for post degradation and also sometimes open exposure studies are performed on 50 degree and 75% RH to understand the product behavior. So what happens if the accelerated stability fails? You might have faced the problem of accelerated stability testing failure. So if any product shows significant change, that means out of specification result in assay related substances dissolution or any other quality parameter, that time you say that the stability is failed. The product may show degradation at extreme conditions. It may show change in the description appearance or change in assay by 5% compared to the initial value, change in the chemical composition. So this reflects that the stability is failed and it is showing the significant change. it doesn't always reflect real world conditions because the accelerated condition is harsher condition and it is with higher temperature and humidity than the normal storage condition or recommended storage condition. So failure in the accelerated test may not always affect the products under normal storage conditions. Then we should know and we should study the root causes of failure in accelerated test. Sensitivity to temperature or humidity, packaging issues, inappropriate test conditions may lead to failure in the accelerated condition. Then come to the real time or long term stability testing. So long term stability testing means it is a real world condition or it is the recommended storage condition. Some people call it as room temperature condition like 25 degrees Celsius and 60% RH. It represents how the product will perform over its shelf life. Importance of long-term data. Primary determinant of shelf life. Regulatory authorities base expiration date on real-time stability data. So long-term condition is the main condition for evaluating the actual shelf life. Then it is important for validation of the product quality as long-term conditions ensure that the product remains effective and safe throughout its life cycle. Regulatory considerations. So WHO guidelines are there, other regulatory authority guidelines are there for shelf life claim. Shelf life claim must be based on the real-time stability data. No extrapolation is allowed if accelerated stability fails. So this is as per the regulatory guideline of WHO. Other regulatory guidelines provide insights for extrapolation based on accelerated data can be requested only if accelerated study passes. Accelerated stability is supplementary and used for registration purpose, not for shelf life determination. So shelf life determination is based on to the long-term stability conditions. The overall meaning of the presentation or overall meaning of the video till now is that accelerated stability failure does not make your product with a inferior quality. If your product's accelerated stability is failing but the product is meeting the quality parameters at long-term condition, that means you can go with the long-term conditions and long-term condition data is the real data. Failure analysis, root cause investigation for the stability failure. So there are some steps to study and to conduct the failure analysis. Identify the failure points. Second is evaluate severity. Third is investigate root causes. So identification of failure points. Analyze where the product deviates from specification, whether it is chemical degradation, increase in the impurities, dissolution problem or physical changes. Evaluate severity. Determine if the failure impacts the safety or efficacy of the product. And investigation of the root causes from formulation point of view, packaging point of view or manufacturing point of view. Formulation issues may be there with ingredients or materials sensitive to accelerated conditions. Packaging problems, are the materials not protective enough? Manufacturing defects, could there be inconsistency in production or handling? Sometimes stability fails because of the higher impurity levels of impurities in the API at initial stage. This may also happen. Improper storage may also be there. Improper handling or manufacturing may also be there. So root causes are required to be understood and investigated. Then steps for handling the accelerated stability failure. Once you find that accelerated stability is failing, then what you will do? So first is continue long-term testing. Second is submit intermediate data and provide failure analysis. So continuing long-term testing, if the accelerated stability fails, but long-term stability passes, use the long-term data to determine the shelf life. It is very simple and very effective way. Then submit intermediate data. Provide the intermediate stability data to show product's performance over time under the less extreme conditions than the accelerated condition. Provide failure analysis. Submit the detailed failure analysis explaining why the product passed in long-term condition but failed under accelerated testing. So root cause may be like the intrinsic nature of the molecule, intrinsic nature of the formulation. Some molecules are very sensitive to temperature, and that's why at 40 degrees Celsius the product fails. But because of the less temperature at intermediate, it is passing, or it is passing at the long-term condition. Now coming to the potential strategies to address accelerated stability failure. So continue long-term testing as we have saw. Then use intermediate testing data and adjust storage conditions. So long-term condition testing is to be continued till out of specification results are reached with long-term condition. Shelf life should be based on long-term data before OS. So you have to come to that point where the product is failing at long-term testing also. Use intermediate data. Use intermediate data for extrapolation to extend shelf life wherever it is applicable. Adjust storage conditions. Suggest alternative storage conditions like cooler storage or less temperature storage and justify why this condition could improve the stability. The examples of this we will see in the upcoming slides. Extrapolation and the shelf life determination. No extrapolation if accelerated stability study fails. Regulatory guidelines provide insights for extrapolation is not allowed unless the accelerated data is satisfactory. Use real-time data. Shelf life must be based on the real-time stability data collected under normal storage conditions. And this long-term storage condition or real-time data is nothing but the data obtained for storage of the product at the recommended storage. For example, if your product recommended storage will be or storage condition will be 25 degree, then long-term condition will be 25 degrees Celsius. Extrapolation from accelerated data when it is allowed up to 12 months from extrapolation from real-time data, but only if accelerated study is acceptable. So accelerated stability data is must and it is very much important for shelf life extrapolation. Coming to the some scenarios. Scenario 1, accelerated test fails but long-term data passes. So at 4075 the product is failing but the product is passing at long-term condition. Now what will be the action? Rely on long-term stability data to establish the shelf life. Document the failure if accelerated testing and provide the detailed explanation. Provide justification that long-term stability is sufficient to guarantee the product quality and safety. So based on the molecule nature, based on the product nature, the action is recommended. So always rely on to the long-term stability data and provide a justification for the failure. Now scenario 2. Accelerated long-term and intermediate testing all fail but the product passes at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius conditions. Now this is the scenario where multiple failures are there in the stability testing and only the 2 to 8 degrees Celsius is the condition where the product is passing. So now what is the recommended action? Shift the product storage recommendation to cool conditions like 2 to 8 degrees Celsius for stability. That means the product is not stable at RT also or room temperature also. That's why you need to store the product at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. Then need to update the product labeling to indicate new storage conditions. Ensure regulatory compliance by submitting updated stability data and labeling. This may happen for some of the products which are antibiotic or which are less stable formulations. So these are required to be stored in freeze and the conditions will be 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. Generally it is also called as 5 degrees Celsius plus minus, or with the range of 3 degrees Celsius at both the ends. In summary, the long-term stability data is most reliable for determining the shelf life. Accelerated stability testing is useful for early predictions but cannot replace real-time data. If accelerated stability fails, continue with long-term testing and provide the detailed failure analysis. Regulatory authorities require shelf life to be based on real-time data without extrapolation unless accelerated testing is acceptable. So whenever you are loading the stability samples, load at all the conditions, but don't rely only onto the stress condition results. Always check and rely onto the long-term data. Also, you can evaluate the intermediate stability condition data so that you can get the exact idea about the effect of temperature onto the stability. So this is how the accelerated stability failure is handled, and this is how we can address the stability issues in product development. No doubt we should try always to improve the product stability so that we can produce and manufacture the safe and effective medicines for patients. But some molecules may have intrinsic stability or instability at higher temperature. So in those cases, we can or we should rely onto the long-term stability data. I hope this video will be helpful to you to understand these topics. You can go through my channel and you will get many topics related to stability. Watch those videos one by one, or repeatedly can watch and listen whenever you have free time, so that your basics will be strong and your topics will be known. So I hope this video will help you. If you have any queries, you can comment and I will try to answer your questions. Thank you for watching the video.